Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of RE News with PropertyLimBrothers. I'm Alexa, let's go. Now today we're going to talk about a topic that is very close to our hearts, and that is working from home and how it's affecting the real estate market in Singapore. So ever since the pandemic started, I think working from home has become a phenomenon that has been spreading across the world. Now this hybrid mode of working, where some people choose to work from home and some people choose to work from office, has been gaining increasing popularity over the last 2 years. And of course, love it or hate it, one thing is for sure that it certainly seems to be here to stay. Now, policymakers and thought leaders are referring to the work-from-home arrangement as part of the future of work. Now, what is certain is that ever since the pandemic started, I think definitely there has been a shift in thinking as to what is actually work. Now, traditionally, when we think about work, we have to get up in the morning, take the train or the bus all the way to the office and sit down physically over there for a few hours until it's time to knock off. Now, in the last 2 years, things have certainly changed, and we see that there are changing sentiments on the ground as well. Now, in this episode, we're going to take a deep dive and see how the working from home arrangement has actually affected the real estate market. So looking at the work-from-home data that is provided by MOM, 49.2% of Singapore resident workers were actually working from home in the year 2020. And this number continued to remain high at 45.6% in 2021 as well. Now, considering that we are now entering the third year of pandemic, I think it is clear that, work from home is actually expected not to go anywhere soon, and is pretty much here to stay. Now, while the government has actually recently announced that up to 75% of employees can head back to the office, we see that when this is actually implemented in Europe and North America, the implementations are actually met with quite a bit of resistance on the ground. Now, looking at the MOM 2021 data, we realize that the work from home actually affects a very specific demographic more than the others. So looking at the working population, intuitively, it is the working adults aged between 25 to 49 which are most involved with the work from home arrangement. So zooming in further, we see that it's actually the mid-career residents aged between 30 to 39 who are working from home most of the time, with a high percentage of 57.9%. Now over here, we can see that the most affected occupation groups are actually your PMETs as well as your professionals, managers and administrators. Now, looking at this, it is clear that about 2/3 of our highly paid and skilled workers are working from home. And so we have a specific demographic to pay attention to in our analysis of how this may actually impact the Singapore's real estate market. So what are the expected effects on real estate in Singapore? Now, before we actually talk about this, we are actually going to build on the existing work that is happening in the UK and the USA as well. Now, in larger countries, what is happening is actually that most of these professionals are choosing to leave the city centre in order to move to the suburban areas. That is because for similar amount of rent, they can actually rent a much larger space. So in terms of the increase in the rental prices in suburban areas, now in the UK, the effect is not too bad on a scale of about 1 to 4%. But in the US, the increase can actually be quite drastic, and some might even outprice certain groups of people so that they are no longer able to live in these areas. So one other interesting phenomenon that we see in the UK is that the rental prices actually fell in the city centre in London. Now, the work from home effect is drastic over there, with rental prices being reduced by approximately 9 to 15%. A survey across USA actually showed that the commercial rental market now is actually quite bearish. Now, I think what's happening is actually that companies are realizing, hey, my staff can actually work well from home. Then why not we save the money on office space rental instead and allow for work from home to happen even after the pandemic? Now, what this means is that there might be a drop in demand for commercial office space, and this will actually be bad news for the commercial real estate market. So looking at the data, we can see that 74% of companies plan to permanently shift their employees to remote work after the COVID crisis ends. In addition to that, when we look at vacancy rates across total commercial office space in the US, it is now at 17%, up from 9% in Q1 in 2020. When looking at the demand for commercial office space as well, there is now a 20% structural reduction. Now, since the pandemic, we have seen rental in the OCR region increase by 13%, and rental prices in the RCR region grew only by 2%. And when we zoom in at the CCR region, rentals actually fell by 7%. Now, this is in line with the data that we have observed in other countries as well. However, because of the scarcity of land in Singapore, the rental increase in the OCR region is actually much steeper, and when we look at the decrease in the CCR renter, it's actually much less than in the other major cities like London. Now, however, when we look at the sale prices during the same period, what we see is that in the OCR and RCR region, condos and HDB prices actually went up by 12%. And when looking at the condos and the HDBs in the CCR region, prices actually grew by 7% over there. Now, what this means is that working from home has actually affected the rental markets much more than the ownership patterns. Now, to see if the movement in the rental market is actually related to the work from home phenomenon, what we can actually do is to look at the rental price growth for condos and HDBs based on their sizes. Now, while all the different sizes of properties actually experience high growth rates, we see that the condos and HDB with a size of greater than 2,000 square feet are the ones where the prices increase the most at 28%. Now, this is actually twice the growth rate of condos and HDB size between 1,000 to 2,000 square feet. So why is this happening? Now, we actually think that this is happening because of the work from home effect, where more of these highly paid skilled professionals are moving to the OCR region because over there they can enjoy greater space to work from home and also at the same time enjoy relatively lower rents compared to the CCR region. Now, on the commercial side of Singapore, as we are entering into the third year of the pandemic, the industrial rental side is showing a little bit of recovery with a modest 1% growth. However, what we need to realize is that overall, ever since the pandemic started, commercial rental has fallen by about 11%. Now, this is not a good sign for the health of Singapore's commercial real estate market. So if this work from home effect is prolonged, we will see a continued contraction in the commercial property rental market. And to end today's episode of RE News, here are some closing thoughts. So looking at what's happening all around the world, I think working from home is a trend that is probably here to stay for the long term. In line with economic theory and expectations, we're going to see rentals in the OCR increasing and the CCR decreasing. And we're also seeing demand for larger apartments in the OCR regions increasing, which then result in rental pricing increasing of up to 28%. Now, while this rental price growth may be positive news for the landlords who are now collecting higher rental, this is actually not so good news as other demographics might now be priced out from the region and suffer a higher cost of living as a result of these new neighbours moving in. And while on the industrial rental side, while we're making some modest recovery, when we look at the commercial rental side, it seems that things may continue to be on the downside for some time. Now, in conclusion, Singapore's rental market has definitely seen a significant shift due to work from home trends. Now, as we move towards a more endemic approach, we're going to continue monitoring this movement to see that if this will continue. Nonetheless, the overall property market in Singapore still seems to be very resilient with sale prices increasing across the board. I'm Alexa and we'll see you on the next episode of RE News with PropertyLimBrothers.